We have learned some information about Disneyland Paris's programs, what will be replacing their FastPass system, and now it's time to speculate, will it be coming to the US? That's this episode. This is episode number 38. I'm Soraya.
I'm Aurora.
And together we're just your average Disney travelers. Okay, before we start, let's just be upfront. Today is July 8th, and this is going to air on July 18th. We're actually going to be heading out of town. I know we were just at Disneyland, but we are going actually out of town for a couple of days with Ryan this time, with Dad, and I'm going to do a little getaway. So we're taking care of this first. And yesterday, on July 7th, news broke. They officially, from Disneyland Paris, announced what their programs will be that are replacing FastPass. They did have the FastPass system there, and it is being replaced because there has been so much anticipation, speculation, everyone looking towards what the FastPass program will look like when it comes back to Disney World and Disneyland here in US. We're looking at this very closely because this could very well be what we'll be seeing in our parks as well. So let's break it down a little bit. So first of all, there's two programs. There is the Standby Pass and then the Disney Premiere Access Pass. So the Standby Pass, do you want to tell a little bit about that one? No?
I'm terrible at explaining things, Mom.
Words.
I can't without thinking about it before.
This is a quiz then. How much does the Standby Pass cost?
Come
on, quickly.
Okay. It doesn't cost anything.
That's right.
It's free.
It is free. So that's the good news. Standby Pass is going to be free to everyone. You will need to you'll want to use the Disney app. So in this case, because this is announced for Disneyland Paris, it would be the Disneyland Paris app, and you would have your account set up and you would have your tickets linked and everything ready, just like you were going to any other park, really. We already are used to doing that now because of mobile ordering and wait times and all that, virtual queues, but we'll definitely need that for this as well. If you don't have a smartphone, they will have cast members that can help you there, but I imagine it's so much more convenient to be able to do it yourself on your phone. So you're going to want to do that. Have a smartphone, have the app, have everything set up. And then you get to the parks, you go up to an attraction, you get into the queue, and it'll be like normal. At some point in the day, the queue will start to get a little long. The line is going to get to a point where the cast members will, and we don't know exactly what this point will be. It might vary based on the ride. It might vary based on the day. We don't know. But at some point, they'll determine that it needs to go to the Standby Pass. And they will not allow anyone else to get into this queue physically. At this point, there will be a sign displayed. And if you were on your app, you would see it an indication that this attraction is now requiring the Standby Pass line. So you would go ahead and say that whoever was riding with you or you want to be with you, you'll get the attraction, and it will tell you the next available 30-minute window for you to return during to be able to get back into this line. So it's basically a virtual queue, but not entirely. So you'll get your return window. You will then have whatever time until that window begins to do what? What can you do while you're in the virtual line?
You can go shopping. You can eat. You can stand in another line.
As long as it's not turned into a Standby Pass line. Yeah.
You can sit and do nothing.
Like rest your feet. Yeah, so you can watch a show. Any of these things you can do while you're now in this virtual line, as long as once that window opens, you've got 30 minutes and you return. When you get there, you're going to scan your thing saying that you're able to, you'll use your app, it'll have a code, and you'll scan it, and then you get into the line. But at this point, that line is controlled. It's not excessively long. It's now a maintainable amount of time to what is comfortable for Disney and comfortable for their guests. I don't know what that length will be. 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't know. but it'll be a shorter line than if you had gotten into this line when it started.
I'm just wondering, would it just stay like that the entire day, or like how would it?
Well, then revert back to a regular queue.
I'm just wondering, like, how would that?
I don't know. Maybe if
how
they
would it
stop
be able
getting
to-
people in line in the
That's
virtual
true.
line, maybe they'll go back. I don't know, because we see that fluctuate sometimes during the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just because then obviously it would be pushed back further. So like, would people? I wonder if they also like would show like how far, like how like long, like you'd have to like it'll
Well,
tell
when you get it, when you're on the app, it will tell you what your the next available 30 minutes
Yeah.
is. So you'll have an
Okay, so
idea
that's
of
what I
the
was
time.
wondering. So then, because
And
then
I'm hoping at that point you can
Yeah.
choose whether or not to commit to it, because once you've committed to this, it is not, you can't cancel it, you can't transfer it or anything. So if you change your mind and decide you don't want to wait for that line, you want to wait for a different line on, like a different standby pass, it's too bad. You have to wait until your window begins. Once your window opens up, you can then go and book another standby pass. You don't even have to have written that first one yet, or
you
even
don't
gotten scanned.
Yeah, scanned.
It says, at least in the description, it says that as soon as you have that window opens, you can then go ahead and get yourself a different one. So I don't, yeah, but I think, so I'm hoping that they at least give you that chance to commit before you went, once you've seen the times that you can choose yay or nay, because it might end up being too late for you, or not at a good time or whatever. But this is a free program, so that's good. It's good. I actually do like the idea of this. I think that especially after last week when we were at Disneyland and our feet were so sore, and standing just kills your feet. And so I think way worse than walking. And so if we had the option to, for free, put ourselves into a virtual queue for some of those rides and gone and done something else, and maybe I would have sat on a bench and eaten a snack, or maybe just people watched, or maybe you would have gone and ridden another ride while we were waiting or whatever, but we could have done that without standing that whole time. It kind of breaks up the way you're waiting. Part of it will be in a physical line, but part of it is going to first be a virtual line. And so I think that could be a good thing. I like that idea, especially with it being free. I do wonder if it's super busy, will they get to the point where will the lines will be just, there's nothing available to do because everything's kind of booked up and you can't even get in a standby line. I don't know. We also don't know if this is going to be for all rides, for just the rides that already have a FastPass system in place. I don't think it's that necessarily, because it can be technically, by the way it works, it seems like it could be any ride, because you just need the standby line, and all of them already have that. You don't have to have a FastPass line built in or a single rider line built in. So what are your thoughts? Do you like the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you want to use that then?
Yes, as long as they're single rider.
As long as they still have single rider
going on, even when the standby line is virtual.
I think that they would.
Yeah, it won't affect the standby line, no matter if it's physical or virtual.
That's true.
Because there's always still going to be the empty spaces, because just because it's virtual doesn't change the amount of people that are in the party.
In each car.
Yeah, and so there's going to be empty spaces. So single rider
line never affects the standby line. Yeah. And so
I will be really mad if they don't do that. I'll be really mad.
I would guess that they still will have the single rider line, because they're still wanting to go ahead and get as many people on a ride at any given time as they can. And the single rider helps them do that, because some people then are going to get in the single rider line instead, and it doesn't affect that wait time. And so that's only a positive.
If anything, it makes it faster.
Yeah.
Because people are choosing to go single rider instead of standby.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's hard to say how it'll look. First of all, it's hard to say if it is going to come to the US and in what format and how it will actually work. But that is the free pass, the standby pass that Disneyland Paris is using now, or will be using very soon. There is another pass, though, that Disneyland Paris is doing that is not free. And this is what has gotten a lot of people a little bit up and riled up, a little upset. The way it works is, first of all, it's called the Disneyland Premiere Access Pass. And the Premier Access Pass is you have to pay for it. The standby pass, like I said, you get in the standby line. You're not actually, it's not a fast pass. It's just a way to wait outside of the line for a portion of it before you get back into a shorter line. The fast pass, or sorry, the Premier Access Pass is going to be more like a fast pass, but it's not being called a fast pass. So the way it works is there is a fee. And unlike what we've seen in the past with like Max Pass, where there was a daily fee or anything, this is going to be on a per use basis, so a per ride basis.
Yes.
And of course, we don't know what those prices would be if it comes to US, but in Paris, the prices are listed. And when you convert them to US dollars, the cost is anywhere from $9 to $17 per person per ride. And you
Yes.
can imagine that adds up. Say
And
it's
I did the math. Our trip, we did roughly like 4 days, well, 3.5, but let's just say 4 days. And I put 4 people because of something else. So I first did $9. So 9 times 4, 36. 36 times 4 is like 144, I believe. And so that's would be just to have 3 of these tickets per day for each person.
yeah, it would add up.
And then with $17 it was like 272.
And it didn't really, it said that the price would vary based on the day. So I'm imagining maybe higher peak season, busier seasons, it would cost more. And then also just like on the attraction. So maybe some of the rides that are the highest demand would cost more than ones that are in a little bit lower demand. I don't know. This is all speculation. It's not very clear. But what they did list were the rides that would qualify for this, because not all rides do. And Disneyland Paris has 2 theme parks. Out of the 2 theme parks, 8 attractions are on this list. So really there's not a lot of rides that will have this pass as even an option. So it's not going to affect the majority of the rides. It's going to affect just your highest demand, busiest, longest lined rides that you usually have in any of the theme parks. But the way it'll work is similar. You'll need the app. You will need to have had your account. You'll need to have your tickets all up in your app and linked up for everyone in your group. And you'll go in, and this time you'll select the attraction and the people riding, and you'll pay for that pass. And I forgot to turn off my sounds again.
Oh gosh, dang it, Mom.
Yep. So you will pay for it, and then you will be given, again, it says that the next available 30-minute window for that attraction. So it's hard to say how soon or how late it would be, but you will be given a 30-minute return time. And when your return time comes up, you'll go to that attraction, scan the code, and it sounds like you're at that point in a FastPass line, not in the regular queue, in a completely separate line. Difference between this, first of all, there is a little bit of a limitation. They are allowed to it says you may buy a maximum of 3 Premier Access passes for each attraction per guest per day. So you can do this up to 3 times per attraction, and you can do it up to 12 Premier Access for 1 attraction and 1 time slot at a time. Meaning, I'm reading this as saying, if your group is more than 12 people, you're going to need somebody else to be getting the other, because you can only get 12 at a time to ride at the same time. But then what is also listed is there's a limited number for each time slot, which we understand. It's valid for a single use for a chosen attraction at a given time, but you can only buy 1 Premier Access for 1 attraction at a time. But if you want to buy for a separate attraction, you just start a new transaction. So say you're going to use this for, we're just going to put in some Disneyland rides because that's what we're familiar with. Say it's for Space Mountain. And so I'm going to purchase Aurora and I, these Premier Access passes. I can do that. And then I don't have to have used it yet. I can go in and also get us a Premier Access pass for Thunder Mountain, or for Splash Mountain, or for Pirates, hopefully, because doesn't everyone want Pirates? Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe I don't want that to have a FastPass line, because I don't want the standby line to get long. But anyways, you can get more than 1 attraction more than one attraction at a time, but not more than one time slot per attraction at a time. Does that make sense?
I don't know. I kind of spaced the entire time.
See, so we can have, it sounds like this pass, you could purchase a Premier Access pass, multiple, as long as they're all for different attractions.
Okay.
You couldn't say, oh, I'm going to just ride Space Mountain 3 times. Or maybe you can, you just have to start a new transaction, but you're only allowed to do it 3 times per attraction each day. And if you're choosing a different time slot for any given attraction, you have to start a new transaction. So you get back into there and get a new time and pay again. And there will be people who do that. There's always been people who are willing to pay to have extra benefits at Disney, to skip lines. I mean, we already see that. First of all, we've had Max Pass where we, at first when it came out, there was so much, negative comments and speculation from people about that program. And then once we all used it, we loved it. And it was like, we will never go without Max Pass again. And we've been kind of hoping that that's what came back, and it might still, or it might be something like this. But we've already been in the habit. We've fallen into that little trap, that mouse trap of paying more for extra.
But it wasn't that much more.
Yeah.
It was like,
So, there goes my Roomba. It wasn't supposed to go yet. I'm going to pause it. Anyways, so, So another thing that people have been doing, and this is crazy, but the VIP tours, this is hundreds of dollars an hour and a 7-hour limit, or minimum. So thousands of dollars a day people are paying for a VIP tour, and that is to get to the front of lines, and they can do that over and over and over for whatever attractions they want. So people have been paying for extra benefits. We also see things like dining packages to have preferred seating at shows. And this isn't just Disney. You can pay for a better seat on an airplane or a better hotel room at any hotel, so this isn't a totally completely new concept. It's just like, we used to get our fast passes for free for the most part. And so this will be kind of interesting to see. What are your thoughts about the Premier Access? It's hard because you don't pay for anything to begin with, so it's like hard to say what you're weighing pros and cons.
It doesn't make the standby line too much longer. And
that's a good point.
Honestly, as long, it really was just my biggest concern was the single rider line. So
single rider has never changed the standby line, because single riders are only filling empty spaces that were not going to get filled otherwise. So here's something to point out though. There's always been the debate of whether fast passes are, some people have been loving not having fast passes and don't want the fast passes to come back because they feel like the standby line stays shorter without fast pass. And they do, because if you have a fast pass line, it cuts into the standby lines opportunities to ride.
We didn't really see any above an hour or so wait times. Always, I don't remember ever seeing above an hour.
While we were there, I think we saw up to an hour, but we didn't really see very much over. But then we also were still, the rumor is it was about 40% capacity.
That is true.
But there is something to say though, that the standby lines do generally end up shorter with less or no fast passes. Another thing that is interesting is when Disney World went to the Fast Pass Plus system and people were limited to 3 fast passes a day, or at least to start, they also saw a decrease in the wait times for all of the rides overall in the standby lines, because people were using fewer fast passes. There were less fast pass people using fast passes at any given time. And so that kind of overall toned down the wait times in general. And that's what I think they're going for here, because it's going to be so much, there are going to be fewer people using this type of access pass, the Premier Access Pass, than there were of fast passes, because fast passes were free. And so whether it was at Disney World where there were 3, or there's at Disneyland where it was totally free unless you used the Max Pass, and even then it was a really reasonable price, especially compared to some of the prices we're seeing for this per attraction. it was so many more people used it. All of the annual pass holders, they had access to fast passes too, and so they were using it. I would say though, if this program came to the United States, we would see far fewer annual pass holders using it, because why would they pay when they get to come frequently and they'll just ride it a different day when the line is short? Why would they put that much money down for it? And in general, anyone in general that's just outside their budget, it's pushed it over the top. And so because it'll cost extra, you'll see fewer people using it. Some people will still use it, and that's fine for them. I could see us maybe saying before we go
once or twice, having a limit, because if there's a ride we really want to go on, but it just keeps being long, then
exactly. If you have a ride that is just make it or break it for you, your trip.
Can you have a Premiere access pass while also being in virtual?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because then if you're in a virtual line, but then all the other lines are virtual, and then one of the rides is getting to the kind of higher.
I would kind of assume that you would be able to, because there hasn't been any verbiage saying you couldn't. It was specific about the type of pass it was, and they are different lines. So I would think that maybe you can, but I don't know. That's a good question. So I have mixed feelings overall about how this has been announced for Disneyland. I mean, obviously Disneyland Paris, we don't frequent there. Haven't made it there yet. It's just so curious to see if that's what's going to come to the United States. We're all waiting. As of today, again, July 8th, we don't know. We don't know. Maybe tomorrow, by the time this is posted or something, maybe they will have announced it.
It will just have
probably
everything we've talked about will
be completely outdated.
Yeah.
But as of right now, this is our speculation. I think that it will be probably something similar. Oh, another question I have: when they come, especially to Disney World, will there be a benefit to staying on property? Will some of the resort guests, will all resort guests get some element of this complimentary? Maybe a limit. Maybe you get only 3, then you get 3 for free, or whatever. I don't know. Good question. Or is it only going to be for your deluxe resort guests? Or will it not be for any of them? Don't know. So these are questions that I'm wondering about with this, if it comes to the US. What do you think, Aurora? Do you think it's going to come?
You're just glowing over here, because you're just
having, and I have my ears
light, very light colors, and you're just
am I blinding you?
Yeah, and it's just very of light. This half of the screen is just.
What do you think about bright. The pass? Do you think that this will be something that we're going to see come to US? Anything like this?
Probably some variation of it, because honestly it probably it does seem like it would have a lot better outcome. It's kind of levels things out.
They have been using this at Shanghai.
They have this program.
It's either this one or the standby one. Now I'd have to go back and check, but they've been using at least one of these programs in Shanghai. And so it's, I don't know, will it come? I mean, even in the US, we've had a huge difference between the Disneyland program and the Disney World program for many years now. At one point they were very similar, but now they have been quite different.
So we might have multiple, it's hard to say. Maybe one of them's kind of like this, or maybe they're both.
It's really hard to say. But I think it's safe to say that I know people don't want this to be true, but I think that most of us realize that whatever comes is going to be at a higher expense than it has been, that we will have to pay at some point somehow. At the very least, we'll have to pay unless we're staying on a Disney property or something like that. And even then, we may very well be paying for fast passes or whatever version of FastPass comes back. And I think that's expected. And that's why this doesn't sound that shocking to me. Part of it's a little disappointing, but
it's definitely disappointing.
But I'm reserving judgment too until we find out what's actually coming to the US.
And even then, they do spend a crap ton of money on stuff, and so I mean, it does make sense.
Yeah, and not just that. The standby pass, I am loving. I wish we had that this last week.
As long as there are single rider lines still.
As long as there are still single rider lines, that's true. It's hard to say. Disney, we were talking about this earlier. Disney needs us to be in lines to an extent, to help their capacity levels, because we need to be spread out throughout the parks. And if nobody's in line,
then
then
we're just filling up the
everybody's,
space.
we're filling up all the other spaces, and they have to have a lower capacity.
Because the lines are just more space, and so then more people in lines, the more people you can put in.
So they do need us to be in lines, but they also do not want us to be in excessive lines for a couple of reasons.
We'll just not be happy.
Exactly. And if it's a miserable experience, if people are discouraged and frustrated their whole time, are they going to go back?
No.
But the other thing is, if people are in lines, they can't be out doing other things that
like
might
paying for merchandise.
You're less likely, you're not going to be spending money. If you're out of the line, you're more likely to be spending money, whether it's on that churro or Mickey bar, or if it's in a Blue Bayou dining reservation.
So with the standby virtual, whatever it's called,
the standby pass.
Okay, well, with that, it should keep things flowing. So there are still many people in line,
you still have a controlled amount of people in the line,
actually physically in line, but
physically at the queue.
It's moving more.
But the rest of us are in a virtual queue,
nicely
shopping, or whatever, and that ultimately increases Disney's bottom dollar, and that's their business. That's what they're after. They're after keeping us happy and making sure that we have good experiences. They need to keep it balanced and level. And I think overall, I'm hopeful that if this is the program that comes to the US, that it will overall decrease our wait times. I really, really, really am hopeful about this standby pass. I'm also really hopeful that our costs aren't as high as Paris's, but I don't know if that's wishful thinking or what. But
that's true.
Yeah. Anyways, so this was all speculation as to the US portion. It is official for Paris, Disneyland Paris. And so if you're going to Disneyland Paris, get some research done about this, because you are going to be looking at these systems and you're going to want to know how they work and want to know whether it's worth it for you. And if you're not going to Disneyland Paris, like we are not, then as we see things start to roll out for US, keep this in mind, that this is already going on now in other parts of the world, and this might very well be our future. So we'll see. It's not all bad news. Some of it's really good, and we'll just see how it all plays out. But that's it. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week.
See you.